2013. Where does the time go? It feels like just yesterday. It was 1996 and we were all watching The Craft, and every person I know that saw it decided then and there they wanted to grow up to be involved in the dark arts of some sort. I wasn't inspired to become a witch at that moment in time. Definitely more of a wizard person. Not Harry Potter wizard, but Gandalf wizard. I want the long scraggly beard, the long white hair, a staff, a fun long pipe. That's my dream come true, but that seed of thought was planted in 1996 by The Craft. Fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, I'm not judging you, but it is not difficult to find. But alas, 'tis no longer 1996. We are indeed in 2013, and this year was been a challenging year for me, for sure. I feel like since high school, every single year I've grown into this brand new person who is a stranger to my former self, and yet the constant thread that runs throughout my life is me. So not really a completely different person, but getting old can be, getting older, I should say. Getting older is neat. It happens. But 26 was a hard one. It kind of slaps you in the face. Reality coming at you. You are no longer a child. And oh hey, remember that really fun quarter of a century birthday that you had last year? Well, fuck that noise. All you're getting for your 26th birthday is kicked off your parents' insurance. So, thank you, law and land, for that present. Appreciated. I mean, getting older really isn't that bad. As I've gotten older, I've been able to see patterns running throughout my life. Whether it's waves of depression or anxiety, or high times, happy times. I'm not saying high like I'm just, man. I mean like highs and lows. I've certainly had a lot of those, as I'm sure that you can relate to. But it was only this year that I realized, since I left high school, every 2 years, some crazy, unforeseen, huge shift occurs in my life. And what follows beyond that, I can only describe it as absurd. So to start off my absurd journey, 2 years out of high school, not having any dreams of being involved in the radio industry when I was in high school, 2 years out of it, I got my first on-air gig. I was working at a radio station in the Northern Virginia area that was an all-male talk radio station. They have since changed to sports talk, but that was my big start in radio. And it wasn't long after that I then got a full-time gig on air as a traffic reporter in the evenings in the nation's capital. Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia heard my voice night after night. Yep, yapping about the roadways. I loved it. It's a weird thing to love because pretty much across the board everyone hates traffic, and especially in the DC area where it is no fun. I mean, it's all a matter of perspective. I had some great times stuck in traffic, but I also kept bubbles in my car, and I like to blow them out the windows whilst in that little concrete pool of slow-moving slugs. So 2 years after I got full-time status on air, I then got another huge break that came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I went from just a voice on the radio to a face in the evening news. That's right, this one was one of the youngest broadcasters in a top 10 market. You could see me every night. Not every night, because I didn't look good every night, so sometimes they would just put traffic cameras over my face if I was looking a little busted, which I was 21, so that happened often. I was still learning a lot of things. I'm still in the process of becoming a woman. Puberty has been a long haul for me. I'm a very late bloomer, a slow bloomer as well. So because I didn't really understand how I was to present myself, working in the media industry was a little difficult. Radio was fine. Radio was all about the content of your delivery and how your voice sounds. Got a female midtone, so my voice is pretty pleasant to hear on air. I did just fine in radio, but in television, I butt heads with media executives from time to time. I, for the first couple of years, fought with them about cutting my hair. I had long blonde hair, well down below my nipple, and I was told to cut it because I didn't look credible as a journalist with long hair. It made me look younger. So I met him in the middle, and in 2009, I thought it would be great to wear a wig on air. It was a dashing wig. It was a bold choice. I stood behind it because most of the female broadcasters in the DC industry wore wigs. But they were also black. So black women with wigs versus me with a wig does look a little different. As I started to realize more and more truths about the media industry, that it was less about my reporting and more about my physical appearance, I got an itch, and I had to go. I left the East Coast for the first time in my life and went to visit my best friend in San Francisco. It was definitely a life-altering trip. It changed my outlook on everything. It gave me so much inspiration. I came home and I started a blog called lesbiefriends.blogspot, which very quickly became pretty successful. A lot of people read it. Now that blog led to me doing some video producing things with a collective channel called Queer Factor. I made videos every Wednesday along with a team who did videos every single day discussing different topics pertaining to the LGBTQB. There are probably some letters I'm missing. I want to include everyone, so please feel free to mention that in the comments that I messed that up. We went over multiple topics, and I did that for about a year. And then the icing on the cake in 2010, all because of my blog, I got this crazy gig with Bridget McManus. Yeah, the famous lesbian comedian, the star of Bridget McManus that presents That Time of the Month, also McManus Land, which you can find on YouTube. Oh, and did I mention that she currently is a writer for the Queen Latifah show? Yeah, I know. She was producing and hosting a show called Bridget McManus Presents That Time of the Month, which different LBGT and female-identified artists would send in their videos and comedy skits and music, and she would give them a platform to share their work. It was a beautiful project to be involved in. Now, just when I think things couldn't get any crazier, after being associate producer for a show and working with an idol of mine, professionally, things were starting to bubble up as well. I wasn't exactly the best on air, but I was working through it. I mean, 22 years old, and on television, I don't take myself very seriously, so to be in a very serious industry was a touch on the difficult side. Not because of my level of professionalism, but just to be told that I am not the right hair color in order to be credible as a journalist was just confusing to me. It felt like somebody's priorities were mixed up. But what also happened in 2010 was I started doing independent things, and I got a gig. This is crazy. I still can't believe it happened. In 2010, I was on stage during the Kennedy Center Honors as part of the Jennifer Hudson tribute to Oprah. Right? I don't understand how it happened. And they paid me, and I was sitting there, and I saw Gwen Stefani backstage, and I bumped into Barbara Walters, who is a frail bird of a woman, beautiful. Just so, I could not. It was wild. So I'm up here in 2010, doing just fine. But I'm getting that 2-year itch. And 2009 was the year that things just started happening. I went to San Fran, I started a blog, and then all this stuff started happening beyond that. And then 2011 rolls around. And that itch is bubbling up once more, and I decide to do something ludicrous. I took the job that I had worked so hard to achieve and quit it out of the blue. Now, the reasoning was twofold. One, I had been dealing with some urges to get up on stage, do some stand-up comedy. I wanted to get more involved in the comedy scene, do improv, write sketches. I wanted to follow my own hosting muses. I wanted to do things that I felt spoke to me on a principle level, on a moral level. And also, my company was purchased by a larger company that I had sworn I would never work for. So, I got up and quit. 2011, the year of dreams. The problem was it was a little slow going. The past 2 years since I started the vlog in 2011 when I quit my job, there has been a lot that has happened. It hasn't felt that way because I'm connected to the moment, and that's very small, that tunnel vision where you're like, I'm not doing anything in this moment. But when I pull back, I can see, holy shit, I've done a lot. Since 2011, not only have I gotten up on stage and started performing my own stand-up comedy, but I've written sketches. I've been involved in video production of digital shorts and comedic things. I worked at a comedy club. When I worked there, I was the ticket girl. I also did their chalkboards. I got to host a couple of events and perform there on stage. And I also got to host their trivia night with a friend of mine named Lauren Zoltik. And it was awesome. But then, as soon as I got that job, it was snatched away and the company unfortunately fell apart. And I had to keep on going. What was I gonna do? Didn't want to get back into radio, so gotta keep marching down the path that I've created for myself. And I found a lot of hosting gigs. I started hosting comedy shows, drag shows. I hosted a 9-hour webcast as part of a team of individuals along with 5 O'Clock Films and Media. It was the Sea Perch competition, which middle and high schoolers make robots and go through obstacle courses, and it was an incredible experience to talk to all of those incredibly knowledgeable students who were also helping with the STEM initiative. So that brings us up to 2013. Here we are. So what sort of crazy antics have I got in store for this year? Well, after I turned 26, as I kind of touched on, I had a little rough time. So I spontaneously bought a ticket to San Francisco to visit my best friend again, and this is what occurred. After I visited San Francisco, I went out there to hopefully get some inspiration, and I got a lot more than that. I decided to pack my things, leave the East Coast, and move to San Fran. So, on Saturday, that's what this silly goose is doing. Moving to San Fran to keep my artistic dreams alive. Woo! What better time to do it than in a recession? Yay! So thank you all for being along for this journey. It's certainly been a wild ride, and I hope that things only get a little bit more absurd. We are the weirdos, mister.
Right on the tip.